What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. And on today's episode, we'll be talking about the Bulls coming out of their West Coast trip 3-2, how the team has looked, what do they need to improve on, all that plus more right after this. Okay, so the Bulls have come out of their West Coast trip with a record of 3-2. Could have easily been 4-1. Really, the only game that we were completely blown out of or not in towards the end there was the game against the Golden State Warriors. And so, I also I streamlined after the game, which I'm going to be trying to do more at. Make sure you check that out. I'm not sure if how that works with live streaming, if you guys get any different notifications or anything with that, but we had a lot of people, over 100 people watching live. We had a great conversation, so make sure you tune in because I'm going to be doing more of those, especially now that the Bulls will be back playing at home, playing in the East, and we have some more reasonable times with the game. So be on the lookout for more of that. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about on this episode was the Bulls and where we stand now coming out of just the season so far, this West Coast trip. We lost Vooch right before we started this trip, and immediately, it changed some of our expectations. I know that I, for one, thought the Bulls would be really good to come out of this just, going either 2-3 or 3-2. And the way that they played, even though there was a couple of frustrating losses in there, has really given us a lot to really look at and evaluate with this Bulls team. The scrappiness is always going to be there. The Bulls' ability to just play at a high level is there. It's clear. Anyone who continues to doubt us, coming into the season, we had those doubters on defense, and our defense has been excellent. We rank in the top 10 in this league. Are we still number 5 defensively in the league? And that was something that really people weren't expecting us to do. That was where most of our doubters pointed to. The other thing, DeMar DeRozan's fit concerns are completely gone. What DeMar brings to this Bulls team is elite. It's great. He's a great partner and scoring companion next to Zach LaVine. And just in what he does, the Bulls are plus 17.9 points per game. We outscore our opponent when DeMar DeRozan is out on the court. That's elite. And the fact that of how DeMar also gets his points even when his shot isn't falling, the fact that he pushes it, he puts his head down and he gets to the line, he's going to make his free throws more times than not, and he finds a way to benefit this team. Also, one thing that is well coming out of just this trip and the 15 games so far this season, 16 games so far this season, is that the Chicago Bulls, their chemistry is probably, when you look at teams that pretty much came back this season with the same team that they had last year, and some of them are off the slow starts, the fact that the Bulls, with a completely revamped roster, has played as consistently as what they have, and we still have room to continue to develop and to continue to build that chemistry, it really makes us a dangerous team. And I've said before, I said on the live stream as well last night, is that the thing that I'm going to be interested in seeing is that how when teams get more tape on the Bulls and how they adjust to how they're defending the Bulls or try to figure out what the Bulls plan to do on offense, how we adjust to that is going to be key. But Billy Donovan has shown, he's some things are questionable with Billy Donovan's coaching, but overall, he just continues to show that he knows how to use the players that are on this roster to fit in what they need to do to win. Our free agent additions this season, great. All of them. Almost every free agent addition that we made or trade that we made has shown up and had an impact in some shape, form, or fashion. Tony Bradley, here or there sometimes. Derrick Jones Jr., especially in this last game against the Denver Nuggets, that pick and roll with him, the fact that he's been playing out of position at center since Vooch has been out sometimes, it just goes to show. Alex Caruso, what can you not? Alex Caruso defensively is transformative, as well as Lonzo Ball. And one thing that I pointed out on the live stream last night that a lot of people who were viewing it didn't, people automatically go to the stat line: steals, assists, blocks, rebounds, and points. But what Lonzo does out there that doesn't show is the way that he communicates. Pay attention to when Lonzo, the next time you watch a Bulls game, how Lonzo talks to his teammates when he sees what the other team on offense is doing, and how the Bulls play defense, and how that helps improve everybody's awareness defensively. Pay attention to that. I'm telling you, pay attention to that. It'll blow your mind, because once I started seeing it, it was like, wow, that's why. That is part of the reason, right? A lot of that has to do with Lonzo Ball just being a coach out there on the floor. And the Bulls coming out of this, like, again, national media attention or not be damned, the Bulls ceiling has to absolutely have risen. And one thing that we talked about last night on the live stream was the Bulls' chances at an Eastern Conference Finals. And I know I talked about that, so I'm not going to belabor that point too much because I have a whole video on that. But it starts bringing around some conversation. Some of the things that negatively that we've seen with the Chicago Bulls over this is the Bulls continue to blow leads. Now, a lot of times they're able to battle back. Sometimes they don't lose the lead completely, but they let teams get close enough to where it's scary. Those things have to improve. I think that those things kind of will improve as well once we get Vooch back, and hopefully the Bulls start playing less ISO in the half court when the game slows down and they start running more sets. I think if that happens, we can see a lot of that go away. So, that I just have to be honest in the way that I critique that and talk about that, is that it is concerning sometimes, the ISO ball. It is concerning sometimes how the Bulls they really do blow leads. Now, they've been able to come back from being down a lot as well, so that hopefully you would hope that the team finds a balance with that over the course of the season. But it's a takeaway. It's something that I've noticed as well. The Bulls' lack of offensive rebounding specifically can especially because, again, I view and I like to talk about the team in the sense of what it's going to be like in a playoff series, could come back and completely bite the Bulls in their ass if the Bulls just don't figure out a way or somebody to get or bring in on that offensive end, offensive rebounding end specifically. And I know a lot of the conversation has become now about the Bulls and what star they can get at the 4. I don't think that that's what's necessarily needed. It's just they need somebody who really brings a lot of the positives of that the Bulls are lacking right now in that starting lineup with offensive rebounding, shot blocking, things like that. As well, Kobe White, again, I know a lot of people are judging Kobe White. People who were calling for Kobe White to be traded are just having a field day with Kobe's start so far, but it's going to be a month before Kobe's back to what he can possibly be. The guy wasn't able to play basketball at all for 5 months. I think if you expected him to come out and you to be able to make an honest judgment over what he can and can't do based off this handful of games and handful of minutes, still on a minutes restriction as well, then I think that that's crazy. But he's only hit 2 shots since he's been back, something like that. So you would hope to see that continue to improve. He's getting minutes. Billy Donovan's keeping him out there. He's getting about 11 to 12 minutes a game. So, you hope that he works himself out of it and back into, this is really his offseason. This is Kobe White's preseason coming off an injury, and he's working it back. He's working it back. Another takeaway, Ayo Dosunmu. Come on now. Ayo Dosunmu, and I talked about this a little bit as well. It's going to be difficult if he keeps playing and improving like this for the Bulls to keep him. It's going to be very expensive. I talked about this a little bit before as well. Those same protections that you have with first-round picks to retain them just doesn't exist with second-round picks. So if Ayo keeps playing out of his mind like this and showing like he's going to be a player in this league, don't be surprised if he ends up not being and I know this is long-term. Things can completely change by then, but maybe get really, really expensive for the Bulls to keep him long-term. But by God, is it not great to see a player like he makes mistakes, right? But that fearlessness, because the way that it works, the way that you hope that it works is that at some point, those mistakes that he does make, the ones that he does are going to become lessen and lessen the more experience he gets out there. And then the positives that he gives us are already so great. Ayo's a complete player, and he really is shaping up and projecting to be a steal at the pick that the Bulls got him for. Vooch missing for these 5 games. Like I said before, and I talked about this before, and I know there were some people in the comments who disagreed with me, and that's fine. But Vooch being out there absolutely changes the way that teams defend the Chicago Bulls. Just his ability, the fear of him scoring completely changes the way that some teams can pack it in against this team, and you saw that, as well as his passing, all of that. You've seen it. So the Bulls, we're going to need him. We're going to need him to get it together for one. So absolutely with that. But what he does and how much easier he makes the offense out there for some people are going to be key. But let's talk about some of the players who aren't playing or not getting as much opportunity, as well as I want to talk about that to kind of end the game. So Troy Brown Jr., who started off the season getting minutes, has all but completely fallen out of the rotation. Alize Johnson kind of comes in and out there as well. We haven't really seen Matt Thomas which you didn't really expect. He was always kind of the last guy on the Bulls roster. And so with that being said, you know, Troy Brown Jr.'s contract is this year, 6 or 7 million. Next year, it's about the same. And then like so let's focus. Let me focus. Troy Brown Jr. first. Like I said, with him being completely out of the rotation, if Kobe does get it together with scoring wise, we're really not going to see much of any of Troy Brown Jr. What the Bulls do with him is going to be interesting. He's still a very young player. He's still a player that could possibly very well turn it around. It's still a young season, but you know, with Troy Brown Jr. having a partially guaranteed contract next season, you would think that you could include him in a deal if a team just wants to dump a contract, maybe get a pick or whatever it ends up being. You could see him included in that. But even outside of that, all that aside, it doesn't seem I right now don't see Troy Brown Jr. coming back to this team. Whether the Bulls just don't guarantee his deal next year or whatever else it may end up being, because he's just completely fallen out there. And in the minutes that he got, he didn't play very well at all. Haize Johnson, on the other hand, is a little bit more confusing. Haize brings energy when he's out there. He's playing hard, right? He doesn't always make smart decisions or whatever else. He really hasn't been a scoring factor, but his energy has been out there every time he does get minutes to play. And that raises a question: why hasn't he really cracked the rotation in a meaningful and consistent way? And I speculated before that it may be something to do with he's just not getting the schemes. He's out of position, or some things that we as viewers may not notice happening that he's just not doing. It has to be something you would think, because especially in this time where Vooch has been out, we've been playing even more undersized. We got freaking Derrick Jones Jr. playing the 5. That for Haize really still not to get very many minutes, it raises some questions there, right? And you know, it remains to be seen. Like I said, this is still a young season. A lot of things could turn around as well. But that's really all the things that I wanted to talk about is coming out this road trip. We have New York coming home into Chicago. Vooch may not be back this game yet. I did say before, when Vooch originally went out, that 10 plus days, Sunday would have been the 10th day. Right now, we don't have much report on Vooch is playing or isn't. So I'm just going to go with he's probably not going to be playing. And that's going to make it really interesting to see how the Bulls counteract New York, and considering how that game went last time with them. I hope the Bulls get this win. Absolutely. I hope they play tough and that they play with the chip on the shoulder against New York. But all that remains to be seen. But let me know what your takes on the Bulls are so far this season. What have been some things that have been better than you were expecting? What are some things that have been worse than you were expecting? And then the end of the bench rotation. What do you see long-term for guys like Troy Brown Jr., Haize Johnson, even Matt Thomas? There's players who haven't really cracked the rotation, like I said, in a consistent way. What do you see for them heading into this Bull season? Let me know everything down below. I don't do enough talking about Lonzo Ball's been fucking amazing. Like, let's just say, Javonte Green has been great for us as well. But all that aside, let me know what you guys think down below. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Like I like to end every video on. Go Bulls. I love you guys. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.